Hi all. I wanted to do a short little video because I've kind of been neglecting my YouTube channel for a little while, and I really felt it was important to get something that's been on my mind kind of out there. I have been thinking about one of the biggest issues that I had when I was going through my diet cycles. And one of the biggest issues that I had when I was going through my diet cycles was the recognition that what I was doing was crazy. That the recognition that what I was doing was not normal. The question that would often go through my head is, what do normal people do? I would do all these crazy things in order to ensure that I would stay to my diet. And by all sorts of crazy things, I mean I was creating complicated tracking systems. I was doing meal planning for days. I was planning my entire social calendar around my cheat days. I was avoiding social situations because I didn't want to be around food. I was starving myself. I was over exercising. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the things I was doing in order to try to make myself thin. But the question that would constantly come into my head, especially when I would hit one of those nights where I would go to bed and my stomach was keeping me up because I was so hungry, was, this can't be normal. What do normal people do? So today I kind of wanted to talk about what normal people do. What do normal eaters do? And what I kind of came up with here is that normal eaters do not allow the simple act of eating to control their life. They don't allow over-tracking or meal planning for days. They don't allow the simple act of eating to dictate their choices. Do I go to that activity even though I'm not going to be close to diet food? Do I, this isn't a cheat day, can I actually get away with doing this? How much longer am I going to have to be at the gym tomorrow in order to account for these calories? Overthinking about whether or not they're actually hungry or full. These are things normal eaters do. They eat when they're hungry. They stop when they're full. But not all the time. And this is where I think sometimes if you've been on a diet for long periods of time, it can get really confusing, because trying to eat like a normal person and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full can be really daunting, because for me, I've been through so many dieting cycles that honestly, trying to figure out when I'm hungry is really hard. And my tendency is to overeat. So when I started to try to eat intuitively and the overeating would come up, I would think I was doing something wrong. Well, clearly, I'm never going to be a normal eater because I keep overeating. Well, what is overeating? And I had to sit and think about this too. For me, the sensation is where my stomach feels more than full. I feel like a tightness around my middle. And I went to the National Eating Disorder Information Center and got their actual definition of what it means to overeat. And the definition is consuming more food than your body needs. And I thought about this. Normal eaters overeat. They do. They go to a meal with a group of people in their social circle and they're not paying attention to how they're feeling, and the food looks so good, and the next thing you're, oh, I'm so full. This happens so frequently. It's just a very common thing. Normal people overeat. We all eat distractedly. We all eat quickly. We live in a world where if you're not doing at least two things at once, and eating's an easy one, so you eat while you read, you eat while you work, you eat while you watch TV, you're not going to be paying attention to what's going on in your body. And as you should. If we had to sit down and eat every meal in silence, that would probably be really difficult to do. So overeating is normal and not something to worry about. And I think that that's really, really important if you decide to get onto this journey of getting off of a diet and onto intuitive eating or a health at every size program where you are really just learning to accept yourself for who you are. The next one I want to talk about is emotional eating, because this one happens so frequently too. And if you've been on a diet cycle, the tendency is to push those emotions down as much as you can. And if you're the type of person who just stuffs your emotions anyway, which has always been kind of me, I'm the type of person that has a hard time showing my emotion anyway. When I allowed myself the freedom of intuitive eating and allowing myself to actually eat what I wanted to eat when I wanted to eat it, well, obviously emotional eating is going to come up. We feel things. That's what we are. We are people. And to just kind of define emotional eating, it's when you allow your emotions to be the driving force behind your appetite. So you're not eating because you're hungry or you're full. You are eating because you're feeling something strongly, and this is a way to release that emotion. This can happen in times of trauma. I mean, we've all seen my boyfriend broke up with me, I'm going to eat the tub of ice cream videos. But it can also happen in times when you're just feeling lonely or sad or bored, or even if you're happy and you're going to celebrate. I mean, in our culture, it's very common for you to do something good and the reward is a nice meal. So this happens. Emotional eating is not something that is out of the range of normal activities for normal people, not just disordered chronic dieters. The problem that I find with emotional eating is that emotional eating is a really easy way for diet culture to say, you're doing things wrong. I mean, your weight problem, let's be clear, your weight is never a problem. Your weight problem is due to your emotional eating. And there's so many ways to fix this, and 5 life hacks, and etc., etc., etc. But the reality is that we are human beings, and we will feel emotions. And some of us, a lot of us, at some point in time or another, will eat our way through those emotions. It is completely normal. Normal eaters do it, and it's okay. The last one I want to talk about is binge eating. Now, binge eating is where you consume a lot of food. Now, this is extremely subjective. I mean, what does a lot of food look like for me? What does a lot of food look like for you? It's extremely subjective. But I will tell you that it would be a quantity you're ashamed of for it to be considered a binge. My coworkers often joke about eating an entire tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream in one sitting. It's a big joke, everybody laughs, it's funny. But if I was to mention to them that I had, I don't know, a tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, an entire container of cookies, and an entire box of cereal, I couldn't do that. I would be ashamed, because that seems like a lot of food. It seems like more I would probably make everybody uncomfortable. So if you feel ashamed to tell anyone about the quantity of food, it's probably a good indication that it is a lot of food. For me, binge eating made me feel physically sick. So while overeating is a tightness around your middle, with binge eating after a binge, I would have to lie on the floor with my belly pressed against the floor because otherwise I would vomit. So you're going to feel a physical sensation after a binge, and it's not going to feel very good. The thing about binge eating is it's not always a problem. Let's say once a year you go to grandma's house for Christmas dinner and you eat so much that you need to lay on the floor because you're feeling physically sick. It's not always a problem. Many people might even just call that overeating. So the terminology here is quite fluid. But if you start to feel like you are having to lay down on the floor because you ate so much that you're physically feeling ill on a regular basis. Again, regular is quite subjective, so you're going to have to play this out and think about what your past habits were. It might be worth it to talk to someone. The other indication that there might be an issue is if you feel out of control when you're eating. I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, and when I was having an actual binge, I wouldn't be able to stop. Sometimes I'd want to, but I wouldn't be able to. My body was literally forced to go into the kitchen and get more food and put it in my mouth, even though it was hurting me, and I could feel that it was hurting me. There is very much a helpless feeling that comes with binging. Now, if those symptoms, so if it's a lot of food that you're ashamed of, and it happens on a regular basis, defining that for you, you're feeling a physical sensation that doesn't feel good, and you're feeling kind of an out of control or helpless feeling, these are some good indications that you need to talk to someone, because it could be more than just something that a normal eater would do every now and again because they get wrapped up in the food that they're eating. So I guess the moral of what I wanted to say here was that if you've decided to become an intuitive eater, if you have decided that dieting is not the answer to creating a great and wonderful life and a beautiful connection with the body that you have right now, then it's important to start thinking about how food makes you feel. And I can remember as a dieter, things like overeating, binge eating, emotional eating, these were all considered bad and negative and not good things. If we did those, we'd clearly fallen off the plan, and we should feel ashamed and guilty. What I'm saying is that these things can all be part of what a normal eater does. And so if they happen to you, the issue is not that you need to sit and feel guilt or shame about it. In fact, what they need to be is relatively thoughtless. You need to go, oh, hey, that happened, and move on. This can be easier said than done, but I hope that I'm giving you a little bit of reinforcement that it's okay. I think that's all I wanted to say. So I hope that this has kind of helped you maybe clear up some things in terms of what these terms mean. And if you liked what you're hearing, please go over to my website, iwishiwereme.com, and go ahead and grab my free body image bingo card. It's got these little challenges in it that will help to move you away from looking at dieting as a solution and creating more of a connection with your body, the body you have right now, the beautiful, wonderful body that you have right now. Every Monday I do a Facebook Live, and I actually challenge you to do one of those squares. So let's do this together. Thank you so much for your time.